Hey out there. Hey, is air frying really like a safe thing to use, or is it like just another kitchen trend? Well, listen, today we're going to go deep undercover and find out the truth about this game-changing appliance and how it can transform your meals safely and deliciously. So stay tuned as we break down everything you need to know about air fryers, how they work, their health benefits, the things that are bad about them, their safety tips, and a few surprising facts you probably didn't know. Good morning. Good morning. I am Dr. Helen and I am your guide and what am I? I am your guide to reversing type 2 diabetes along this 40-day detox, accelerated healing detox boot camp. We are now on day 24 and aren't we totally excited, right? We are more than halfway through it. We are trudging along and making our headway and making changes in our lives. Some that we thought never were possible before. And it is happening for you right now here in this accelerated healing detox boot camp. Now, our program is so powerful for lowering your blood sugar and lowering your blood pressure that you want to make sure that your primary provider is on board, because if there are changes that need to be made with your medications, if they need to be adjusted or changed, they are the ones to do it. So you don't want to do it yourself. You want your doctors to do it. Make sure they're on board, because here we use food as medicine. That's what Hippocrates said way back in 400 BC. And I just take it to heart that that's what we should be doing, using food as our medicine. Food first, medicine second. And so that's what we're doing here on our quest to do what? Stop diabetes in its tracks. We want to make so that you won't have to deal with diabetes now, and you won't have to have it come back and raise its ugly head ever again. So this is day 24. We've had some amazing results. We've had blood sugars coming down dramatically, medicine requirements coming down. Our highest one, 120 units of insulin, down to 25 units of insulin because of this program. And just along here we are at day 24 and this is still going on. So I don't know if you're coming for day one. If you are coming for day one, I want to welcome you here. If you're coming for day two, I want to welcome you back. And if this is your day 24, clap, get your hands on your back, give yourself a little thumbs up, right? You're doing it, and I'm proud of you. And I want you to keep going, because it is more than possible to change your life. You take the step, and it will change. Your transformation is underway. So proud of you. Keep up the good work. Now, an air fryer is a really awesome way to create like a crispy exterior on the food, but use like no fat to do it, right? This is like the incredible thing about that. You can use a significantly lower amount of fat and a different kinds of fats that we talk about in our program, how to get things to stick to things and all that kind of stuff. We talk about that when we talk about cooking techniques. But for suffice it to say that you can significantly decrease the fat intake, and it's so versatile. I mean, you can fry in it, you can roast in it, you can even bake in it. Like, it's kind of like amazing. I've even reheated food in the air fryer, especially when you want to do something quickly. Well, let's talk about the science behind the air fryers. Like, how does the air fryer work, right? The air fryer involves a combination of things. Like, my favorite oven that I use is a convection oven. Like, my oven, it will heat up quickly and then it cools down. Like, the fan stays on to cool it down, but it works by convection and radiation and something called the Maillard reaction. And so what is actually happening in there? The heating element inside is near the top of the fryer. It emits the heat down into the air fryer. And then the air fryer has this fan that circulates the air at high speeds so that cooking is evenly distributed across the surface of the food. A small amount of oil can be used, but I'll tell you, I don't even use the oil in my air fryer as I do it. Like I don't use the oil because remember we talked about that endothelial damage. So we're going to give you lots of tips and tricks in our program to show you how to do it so you don't have to worry about endothelial damage. But suffice it to say that we can still get like air fried, we can get fried quality foods. Like I love French fries. As a matter of fact, I had some sweet potato fries for lunch today with nicely seasoned. It was so delicious. It was so good. And I just got, I got some pictures to show you about what was going on in my air fryer. Some good stuff. This fan is circulating the hot air around the food. And what it does is it creates a really rapid kind of heat that transfer this kind of heat transfer that really kind of mimics deep frying without all that crazy oil that you see people just immersing foods inside of. It's like, here we are and you hear all that frying and stuff. It's like, you know what, maybe when I was like 20 I could do that, but I can't do that now. My body has, it's time to get that stuff out, right? And so I can't eat like that anymore. The hot air removes moisture from the food and it results in a crispy exterior and the inside is nice and tender. Now, how does that kind of work? How does that happen? Well, there's something called the Maillard reaction. And so basically what's happening is that the proteins in the food, like the amino acids, which are the building blocks of the proteins, they interact with sugar and reducing sugar so that when the food is heated, the result is it gets like this kind of darkening effect, a browning effect that helps to develop the desirable flavors and the aromas in the cooked food. Like maybe like when you're searing something, or like if you're roasted bread or fried dumplings or something, like essentially something like that. It's the science behind the browning of many cooked foods. And that's something that chefs are well aware of, this whole effect. They use that effect in their cooking all of the time. And so like when I show you kind of the browning effect, these are French fries, right? And they now, so they're not quite as brown as what they look like because there's like smoked paprika on them. And I got some salmon rub on them, and I got a little bit of garlic powder on them, and I put little, some little pepper on them, so it looks a little darker than they really are. But all of that seasoning and all of that deliciousness is stuck to the fries so that I can enjoy them and act, like be all excited and stuff. And so the air fryer has so many different uses. We talked about frying. I actually haven't used the baking feature yet on my air fryer. I'm not sure. Just I haven't wrapped my head around that yet. But roasting vegetables I've certainly done, and reheating is certainly something that can happen. And the foods, there are foods that you use, and it really, really does work well in the air fryer. There's so many different benefits from the air fryer. As many benefits as there are colors, there are benefits to using the air fryer, but there are also some cautions, and we'll talk about what those are. But some of the wonderful benefits about using the air fryer as opposed to a fryer with all the oil is the obvious. Duh, you don't have all the oils and all the fats that are damaging the endothelial lining and cause and really kind of setting it up for the cholesterol plaques to stick to and close down on those blood vessels and decrease the flow that goes to your heart or to your brain or to your kidneys or to your pancreas. That actually occurs, like blood goes everywhere. The blood also goes into your joints, right? It goes into your joints. And so you want to have the blood circulating properly. As an interventional pain doctor doing procedures on people's backs all of the time, I was able to see how if we cleaned up the diet, people didn't require as many procedures for their back because the pain was improved because the circulation got better. And so this greasy kind of setup is a big setup for cholesterol plaque formation, with the endothelial damage and leading to heart attacks and strokes and peripheral vascular disease and the dreaded diabetes, right? That leads to so many other things. It's almost like you get into like this really vicious cycle. And so we're trying to minimize the amount of fat that's in our bodies, minimize the amount of fat that we're putting in so that we don't have to worry so much about that happening. So reducing the fat, the calorie intake compared to like deep frying, it's amazing, right? Even with just spraying it with oil, it's still a whole lot less oil than you would use with than when you're using deep frying, and it actually helps to retain nutrients in the vegetables better than boiling, like hands down better than boiling. And we talked yesterday or day before yesterday, we talked about the boiling part, where boiling actually takes out the nutrients and then you end up pouring that water off. But if you do other methods like air frying it, the nutrients are going to stay inside. Now, if you're going to be boiling your vegetables, don't throw away the water. Use that water and make a soup out of it, right? Use that as your base to start adding things in it, because that water's already got some nutritional value inside of it. But certainly, when you look at what it looks like with air frying, it's like hands down a better option. And it's so time saving. The cleanup is so extremely easy. It makes the traditional unhealthy meals, it makes them a little healthier. I mean, it preserves the textures and the flavors. And it in a way, it just makes it feel like you're indulging in something that when I'm eating my French fries, I feel like, wow, I'm eating French fries. I mean, it's like a big deal. Those French fries are so incredibly delicious. All right, but are there any risks? Are there any dangers to this? Let's hold up, let's step back, and let's take a look. So, in order to talk about that, there's a couple of things that I'm going to mention, but the first one that I want to mention is acrylamide. Now, acrylamide is actually a molecule that is a chemical that can form on some foods during high temperature cooking, such as frying and roasting and baking. So this acrylamide like forms sugars and amino acids called like asparagine. So during the certain types of high temperature cooking, such as frying and roasting and baking, it starts to form with these sugars and this amino acid asparagine. Now, why is that a problem? Well, first of all, when I think about things that what you can use these things for, you go like acrylamide, what? Like, what is that? What are you talking about? Well, let's talk a little bit more about acrylamide, right? Acrylamide, and I think about the things that happen with acrylamide. Like we can actually acrylamide is actually used in industries such as like making paper and pulp and like grouting and oil drilling, textiles. It's used in cosmetics. It's used in a lot of food processing, in plastics. It's used in mining and agricultural industries. It's used for making paper and dyes. I mean, it's also used in treating drinking water and wastewater. Isn't that something? Which is why I don't drink like our water here. I have a purifier on our water system. But you can use this stuff to caulk things, right? Like package things, the adhesives. When I do testing on people, and I remember I told you I do advanced testing that I wasn't taught to do in medical school, and I can find out so many different things. I can actually target the actual toxin that your body is dealing with and target its treatment so that we can get rid of that particular toxin that leads to what I will tell you about in future slides. Because, hey, do we want that? Absolutely, we don't. It's also what's very interesting is that this acrylamide is really the same, one of the same substances that's in cigarette smoke. And so we wonder about that, right? Well, the National Toxicology Program says that acrylamide is reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. Even the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, says that acrylamide is a probable human carcinogen. And let me tell you why. Because in animal studies, they actually found out that acrylamide has been shown to cause cancer in laboratory animals, particularly in the mice, right? The acrylamide increased the incidence and multiplicity of lung tumors. So look in the upper field on the right side, right? You see that really dark grayish mass in the top lung field on what is my right as I'm looking at the picture, you can see that density in the upper corner of the chest wall. That's a lung tumor, right? And so you're seeing like it has been shown to cause this in the animals, right? It's also been shown to cause skin tumors. Nobody wants that either. And one of the things that's really interesting is that it has also been shown to cause thyroid tumors, brain tumors, even pituitary tumors, right? The pituitary is in the brain, but it can cause those kinds of tumors. In addition to that, uterine tumors. And what's very interesting is that maybe before you start thinking that this is anything other than a kidney, this is a kidney with the scalpel on what's called the adrenal glands. This is what it is. It's a kidney with adrenal glands. It is nothing else. I know that there's at least one person who's going to think that it's something else when they saw that picture. It's not. It's a kidney with the adrenal glands. But there is something that can happen in the adrenal glands because of the acrylamide, and it's called a pheochromocytoma. And it actually is a type of tumor that's found in the medulla, or the inside, the deeper parts of the adrenal glands. And we touched on the adrenal glands a little bit in previous presentations, but suffice it to say that a pheochromocytoma is not something that you want because of this little chemical. And so we're going to try to figure out, in the rest of our talk, we're going to talk about what we can do ourselves to kind of help with this, right? Because this acrylamide, remember, it forms at high temperature cooking, high temperature cooking. So caution for foods like potatoes, because that's a big deal. It's lots of sugar inside, the starches inside the potato. And so those potatoes will like get with start forming this substance called the acrylamide. So we're like overheating oils, right? That tends to happen when you're frying French fries and when you're frying like potato chips, right? And the acrylamide is like a byproduct of this thing called the Maillard reaction that we showed you before, which occurs when the sugars and the amino acids react at these really high temperatures. This reaction is responsible for the taste, the color, the aromas, cooked foods, right? It's good to you, but is it worth the possible cancer causing of it, right? It's formed with these proteins, and we don't want that to happen. So the FDA has made some really specific recommendations, and I outline them here because they're really pretty good. So when we talk about comparing frying foods, we're talking about comparing roasting foods or baking the potatoes, or frying causes this highest acrylamide formation, right? But some foods are larger sources of acrylamide in the diet, including like certain potato products, like the French fries and like the potato chips, right? So that is a part of it. But roasting potato pieces causes less acrylamide formation. When you roast it, you get less of the acrylamide on the foods, and you get even less when you bake the potatoes, but particularly when you bake the whole potato. You'll notice that I always keep the skins on the potatoes when we make the potatoes, because I don't think that it's necessary to stop eating potatoes because you have diabetes. I think you have to eat potatoes the right way in order to enjoy them. And so you want to keep the skin on the potatoes. And even when you microwave them with the skin on the potatoes, you don't get the as much of the acrylamide when you do it safely. And so boiling potatoes and microwaving with the skin on them doesn't seem to produce the acrylamide, which is very interesting. That like is the only instance where it seems that it's okay to boil the food, when you're boiling the potatoes, right? So some of the other foods that you can actually find the acrylamide formation on is like foods like grains, so like the breakfast cereals and cookies and toast. And unfortunately, I know this is the number one drink for people around the world, but it's also in coffee. And the interesting thing is that it's not really in the brewing of the coffee, it's in the making of the beans and the roasting of the beans where the problem comes in. And so you won't be really able to, take that out of the coffee, which is, again, an unfortunate result of having the acrylamide in the food. The scientists just have not found a good way of reducing the acrylamide formation in the coffee. So these carcinogens are not found. This is probably like the part, like people who are carnivores are out there. They're gonna love this when I say this. They're gonna be like, yes, because you really don't get acrylamide when you cook meats. It doesn't seem to have the same effect because it doesn't. But don't get too excited because they have their own set of carcinogens. For instance, there's something called heterocyclic amines. These are formed when meat is cooked at high temperatures, like grilling, pan frying, and like when there's something called these PAHs, or the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They're also formed when meat is cooked at high temperatures, like grilling and frying. And then the other one is the N-nitrosamines, right? These are really potent carcinogens that include nitrosamines, nitrosamides, the nitrites, and the nitrates. And these are typically found in processed meats, and they can be labeled as cured or salted. Like when you see that it's a cured meat, or salted, it tends to have these carcinogens in them. And so don't get too excited too quickly, because they have their own sets of things. And so what you talk about cooking at high temperatures, what is a high temperature? Well, cooking it in temperatures above 300 degrees. Y'all, 300 degrees creates carcinogens in the meat products. So especially when there's direct contact with the flames or a hot surface like grilling or pan frying, it creates this hot surface. So like, what do you do about that? You gotta like eat less meat, eat less meat, eat less processed meats, like take that out altogether, and choose smaller portions of meat instead of the large portions. Like we like a huge steak. I know that when I was eating steak, like I had like a big steak on my plate, and then a potato, and then I had like a little bit of vegetables, but not really much. Most of my plate was the steak. And so this is something that really we need to switch on when you're going to be consuming animal products. When you're trying to figure out what to do, you got to figure out ways to decrease your carcinogenic load, decrease the load of saturated fat, and decrease the load of carcinogens that will go in, or other substances that will go in and cause the inflammatory process that we are trying to fight. So the FDA also talks about, gives some recommendations on how to get rid of some of the acrylamide, like in the potatoes. That's a big thing. Potatoes, the toast, the cereals, all of those things. Those are huge things, because those are staples that people have in their diet, like everywhere. Like there's potatoes all over the world. There's bread all over the world, right? These coffee all over the world. So what are the best ways to be able to overcome this kind of thing? Well, one thing is soaking your raw potato slices in water for about 15 to 30 minutes before you put them in the air fryer, right? Roasting will help to reduce the acrylamide formation as well. So during the cooking. So, but when you soak the potatoes, make sure you dry the potatoes really well, so that they're dry when you start cooking them. Particularly for people who decide, I'm still going to cook with oil, make sure your potatoes are dried, because it'll splatter and cause like a significant burn. So you don't want to do that. Now, number two is like storing potatoes in the refrigerator can really increase the amount of acrylamide that is produced during the cooking process. So do not refrigerate your potatoes. You want to keep your potatoes like in a dark, cool place, like in a pantry, or like in the pantry closet, or like somewhere away from the refrigerator, so that that it prevents sprouting. I always just keep my potatoes. I have a little container under my water station, and I just put my potatoes in there along with my garlic. So I put my red potatoes, my white potatoes, and my orange potatoes all in the same container, inside the kitchen, and they're not refrigerated. So that tends to make them last a longer time. And so you just want to obviously prevent the sprouting of them, right? So eat them before they sprout. Now, generally, the more acrylamide, I'm sorry, like a little tongue tied. Generally, more acrylamide accumulates when cooking is done for longer periods of time as well, right? So cooking cut potato products, like even if it's like fried potatoes or something, if you find some potatoes that don't have any oil in them, that's what you're looking for. No oil. If they're already pre-cut, you don't want any oil in the potatoes. If you find that, you want to cook them to a golden yellow instead of a golden brown, because the brown, when it tends to get to a golden brown, then there's going to be more acrylamide in there, and those things are carcinogenic. So as you eat a brown french fry, just say, oh, cancer, and just, lick your fingers on the way down and know that this could potentially be dangerous for you. And if you do that, then you'll possibly say, no, 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 my fries are too dark. Can you make them a little bit lighter? All right, that would be what I would suggest. Now, here's another instance where the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice is not necessarily the case, right? Because you want your toast to be lightly toasted and not dark toasted, right? Because then what happens? You guessed it, more acrylamide formation, more inflammation, more risk of developing a cancer, those all those different tumors that we talked about, lung, brain, uterine tumors, right? The gamut, like that increases your risk for any of them. So we're always interested in safety first. So how do we use an air fryer safely? Here you go. First, place your air fryer on a heat resistant top so that all the heat, it doesn't back up into the container and overheat it, right? So you want to make sure that it's a heat resistant surface. It doesn't burn the surface, because if it burns the surface, then those fumes from under is going to get in there. So some of those toxins are going to get into the food. Okay, that's one. And then avoid overcrowding the basket. Like too much in the basket is going to be a problem. It's going to be uneven cooking. There's going to be like just it just not going to be satisfactory results. Some of them are going to get the acrylamide on them and some of them won't. And so you want it to be more evenly, the heat to be more evenly distributed across that. So you want to just do a layer across that. And if you see inside of the basket, there tends to be a coating of, it's called a Teflon coating on those baskets. And so one of the reasons that we say to keep the heat lower is because when temperatures go above 500 degrees, then you start to get a degradation of the Teflon coating, and that can actually seep inside of the food and can even cause like like flu-like symptoms in the short term. But that those Teflon coatings become toxic in your food, and so you want to avoid those things. Those are other things that I find on my advanced testing. I can actually see those kinds of things occurring. So decrease your cooking times. You want to be able to avoid the Maillard effect. So like when you see like the potatoes with that brownish area on the potatoes, that has already undergone the Maillard effect. And so that means that those are more acrylamide, and the darker they get, the worse it gets, right? And so you can reduce acrylamide by decreasing the cooking time. Blanch your potatoes before you fry them, right? Before you put them in the air fryer, you can blanch them. Like what I'll do is I'll take them and I'll soak my potatoes for a little bit, and then I will put them in the oven, or I'll boil the potatoes for about 10 minutes just to kind of soften them. Throw that water away. To just get rid of that water, and then I'll take the potatoes when I can handle them, and I'll season them and then use them to put in the air fryer to cook. So I've removed a lot of those excess sugars off of the potatoes so that I can avoid doing that. And then I don't overcook them so that they don't get too dark. You want them to be smooth, and you want them to evenly cook one layer at a time. And then you get the best effect. Remember not to store potatoes in the refrigerator, because you will get more acrylamide production when you do that. And so you want to keep them out of the refrigerator. And I am so sorry about the coffee, because I know many people love coffee. But again, the acrylamide forms in the coffee when the coffee beans are roasted, not when the coffee is brewed at home or even in a restaurant. So, and scientists just have not found a way to get rid of the acrylamide in there. So that is unfortunate for you coffee drinkers, and my apologies are to you. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger. I didn't make the message. Now, pressure cooking You in there, you reduce the cooking time, and it reduces the nutrient loss of the food. And so that's so what is our take home message? What do you want to take home? Like, what do you want to take home to know when you go in to your own kitchen to make your food in your air fryer? Well, you want to choose the right temperature of the food, there's a different temperature for each food type, right? And so, for me, I find that 370 degrees is like 70 degrees is safest for most of the food that I make in the air fryer. So I keep the temperature about 370. And then if I need to, I will lower the temperature based on what I'm making in the air fryer. And so that is important. And then you want to make sure just like you wash your dishes, wash your air fryer every time you do it, right? Every time you wash your dishes, you wash the air fryer. It's amazing to me how many people like just empty the stuff out and leave the air fryer there. Another thing that I like to use in my air fryer is I like to use parchment paper. I was actually able to purchase round sheets of paper that fit inside my air fryer perfectly. But then I started thinking, I was like, I got this parchment paper in my drawer here. Why am I using money uh, to buy these ones just because they're round? I'm just going to put one in there, and I'll either cut it or I'll just stuff it. And I'll put it in their air fryer, and I'll put it in because it's not just for baking. It's actually something that I use. It makes the cleanup a whole lot easier too, and kind of prevents that Teflon issue, right? Having that heat, right, or the Teflon coating directly against my food. I use the parchment paper in the bottom of my air fryer so that I have a protective layer between my food and the Teflon coating that's in the air fryer. So the air fryers are and toaster ovens and the stove top and the regular oven, like these are still my go-tos. I still like to have my food heated normally, but when I want to do something quickly, I am going to use the air fryer because it's very versatile, and I can really just get my food cooked a lot quicker, as an alternative to microwave. Right, in our old house, our microwave was not even in the kitchen. It was like in a whole separate other room that we used because I didn't want the microwave in the kitchen with my kids. That was just me, right? And so you might want to kind of, there's a choice. You have many choices of cooking alternatives to microwaves, and including the microwave. But what I'm doing is to just bring the information to you so that you know the safest ways of cooking the different foods. I mean, it's your lifestyle and it is your choice, and you have the choice for better health. So experiment and see if it aligns with your health goals. It's not like a magic bullet, it's really just a tool. So pair it with whole, nutritious ingredients and make sure that you use the foods at the right temperatures and for that particular food. Now, so I have a question for you now. What is your favorite air fryer recipe? I want you to put that in the comments and let us know what your favorite foods are for your recipes, because it's going to be so exciting to be able to read your comments and know what you like to do. I love to take new ideas as well and try to make things based on what you tell me, and I love to do that. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about how to meal prep with an air fryer and save time and control your blood sugars at the same time. So make sure you come back so that you will be able to join us for that on meal prepping using the air fryer. Just a wonderful thing, because it is a wonderful time to be able to get your food that you know is good for you, and you prepped it properly, and you can use it for your different applications. Know where you can take these foods and how to heat them at the various situations that you have. So let's get healthy together. Whether you're rethinking about the microwave habits or exploring new ways to cook, every single step counts. So subscribe to us for more tips on living your healthiest life, living it up and living your best life. It is time to take the first step towards your healing. And we are so excited that we had an opportunity to share this information with you, because we like to share health. I mean, that's really what we do when we share health, we share the love. And we know that health is important. If you have all the money in the world and no health, then it doesn't profit you anything. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have had an absolutely incredible time with you, and I sure hope you had an incredible time as well. We are going to be able to take you to our website so that you can actually join our membership program there and just kind of look around and see the kinds of things that we are able to offer. It is so exciting. You can check out some of the testimonials of people who've actually been through our programs and what their responses have been, how well they've done. You know, it's just a wealth of information to there. You can meet our team of coaches. We talked about having our program, and we talked about why I don't accept insurance a couple of days ago. And you know, it is so important to be able to maximize your health by not being restrained by what the insurance companies will allow. And even if you decide to see us for an office visit, or even if you decide to participate in any of our programs, then we are there for you. Our programs that includes coaching and all of those kinds of things. So whichever way you choose, we'd love to have you. It is an absolutely spectacular opportunity to be able to share with you the health. Sharing the love with you is our goal. So thank you again so much for joining us. We want you to like it, give us a thumbs up, give us comments. I want you to subscribe. This is important. And I want you to kind of share the video with other people. Share it with the people that are trying to find a way to cook. They're trying to eat healthier. They're trying to live a healthier life. So share the health and share the love. Our books are available on Amazon, the Reverse It book and the Reverse It Success Journal, the pair that we use to help people navigate through this journey to reverse their type 2 diabetes. An absolute must have. And because it's time to like strengthen that immune system, I am never without it. I have a power pack with me. Every time I travel, I got my power pack with me because I'm going to take it if I'm going to be in crowded areas, and I'm going to take it if I feel a little sniffle. So I got it all covered. It is a powerful immune boost. It just does what your body does naturally, boosts your immune system to be able to fight what's trying to take it away. So thank you again. We will see you. I appreciate you. I love you so much. Join us tomorrow for our next session at the same time, same station, different session. Thank you guys so much. Health is the new currency, and you are spending yours wisely, and I am too. We'll see you again next time. See you then. Bye bye.